Welcome back to The Grind. This video is going to be a newer type of video where I review some of the advice that I gave to a player who asked for help with their base. So it's going to be a kind of fix my base sort of thing. Maybe I'll be able to do more in the future. And this one is a bit of a unique situation. Well, not a unique situation, but a unique advice for how to build the base based on the common situation where players over leveled too many towers. So they have like 8 to 10 towers that are all the same level, but none of them are at the max ability for their current level. Whether that's because they didn't level up their builder hut because they didn't have enough eggs, or because they just weren't aware of how to build when they were lower level and ended up getting into this situation. So this player, ZenaWarrior, has a lot of level 45, 46, and trickling up to 52 for their towers. The max tower they can have is 52, so they do have one tower that is at max level, but several of them are much below that. So having a lot of towers much lower level is a lot weaker, because if you try to kill a base with level 45 towers, you're going to destroy them very easily. But if you try to destroy a base with level 52 towers, it's going to be a lot more challenging. So you can much more easily clear a base with full base set full of 45s rather than just one island of level 55s. It would be much more challenging, and that's just how the game works. So that is why it's much more beneficial to build up and not out, meaning build your fewer number of towers up as high as you can before you start to build outwards. And as high as you can means you have to level your builder hut as well. If you continue to level beyond what your builder hut will allow you to, then you're just going to be gaining extra XP and making your base weaker in the long run. So this is the base that we are dealing with. They have a lot of average level towers for their level. And so now if they were to merge one of these towers into another, they'd be wasting a lot of experience, because let's say it would get them up to level 56 or so 57 or whatever, then their cap is 52. They're wasting all of those resources that would get them beyond level 52. So what I recommended was shifting to a long island setup. This was the recommendations that I gave. Kind of looks like a football play. But basically we wanted to shift all of their towers onto the island 1 and 2 so that they're all benefiting the 5 towers that this player decides to focus on leveling. Long island setups are a lot better for today's meta, because a lot of dragons are very capable of avoiding damage or taking out problematic towers very quickly, and so a short island is very easy to bypass. Now with a long island, there's a lot more targets you have to consider, and there's a lot more coordination of the towers that can occur. And if you want to hear a bit more about that, check out my base building video. I did release a new one recently. So this is what I recommended. We wanted to shift so that the front island has an ice flak. I asked them to get rid of the electro flak. Electro flaks are not an ideal flak to have. They're not that great, so I don't recommend building one. I also suggested keeping the dark flak on the front island, because due to its very short range, if it is not in that front position on that island, then it will not fire right away. And you really want it to fire immediately, because it's challenging to dodge in that situation, and the stun will be very beneficial if you apply the super shot. I also suggested having the earth flak on the front of that island as well, because earth flaks have a shorter range of activating their shield. So if it's on the back row of the front island, it will have a delayed activation, and it will be harder for you to prevent them from using their one-shot spells to take out your towers. If it is in the front, however, it activates very quickly, and so players have to be very efficient or proficient at firing spells from the turn in order to destroy towers before the earth flak protects them. And then I always recommend keeping a red mage in the middle or offset depending on your situation, as well as a blue mage. I always recommend a blue mage, because it's not just the same to have an ice flak. Blue mages are very useful at preventing, especially hunters who have blue cloaks and stuff like that, that would otherwise very, very easily wipe and walk over your base. Then I suggested moving the ice turret to the back island on island 1 there on the front, because it is highly leveled, so it will be useful for the next little while at least. And then the howitzer is in a good position there. It will fire very quickly once the dragon faces the island, but will still be kind of far out of reach for the dragons to attack right away. And then those little circles there, the blue circle is where I recommended just putting a level 1 ice flak, because you could apply a super shot to that, and before the dragon realizes that it's back there, and once it's in range before all the towers are destroyed, it might get a super shot off, and it might actually prevent the dragon from completing the base. And then the green dot in the middle of that back island is a storm tower, and if you put a super shot on that, it has a very long range of activation. So if the dragon isn't prepared and able to take that out, which is actually kind of challenging to do when it's on the back island, it will activate and protect the towers even longer, so that you might stumble and then maybe get hit by the second ice flak super shot. So it adds a little bit more complexity to the attack on this base, even just at level 1. And I did say this in my base building video, with the long island setup, you don't need all maxed out towers, because some towers will provide a significant amount of utility even at low levels. Now, I still do recommend sticking with the short island setup for the first while, until you get to a convenient point to transition around level 250 or 300, which I believe I outlined in my base building video. So check out that, but I do think that there is value in the short setup for the first period of play. Maybe past level 200, you can start to consider transitioning. Now, what does this mean for the farms and mills? Well, this means that the farms and mills will have to be in front of your base, which some people do not like, because that means they can get a really large percent of destruction on your base done very easily. And then they do not have to completely destroy your kill island to get completion of your base. However, other players argue that this means that you have to get to the difficult portion of the base at the very end of the run, which means it takes more time to actually get that significant percent of completion, which is important in things like Atlas, or even like fast-paced PvP events where time is very critical. Now, I would also recommend for this player to put a very small tower at the very end of their base to extend it, which would require a dragon to fly the entire length of the base in order to actually get to the towers, and that extends the duration of the run. So this is what it looks like now on the third island here, with the farms and mills and where the perch is. Thankfully, the perch bonuses will still apply to island 1 and 2, so you'll still have the added benefit of your dragon and rider on the perch. Now, for this part of the base, I actually would recommend changing that blue mage into a red mage, because that would prevent dragons with red death gaze spells from taking out the farms and mills, and adds a slight bit of complexity, but not that much. And so, since Zena does have an extra leveled up blue mage and is using both of the red mages on the first 2 islands, I think it's okay to leave this blue mage here instead of a red mage. And this is what the back island looks like now. After the changes have been done, we have the dark flak, earth flak, red, blue, and ice flak on the front part of the island. And then on the back, we have the leveled up howitzer and ice turret with a red mage, as well as a level 1, I believe just level 1 storm tower and ice turret. And now we can see they very graciously added the levels to next to the towers so that it was easier to see. The ice turret one is, the ice flak one on the back there is just off the screen, unfortunately. But you can see the levels here. Just the level 1 storm tower and ice flak will hopefully add some utility, and I'm excited to hear from ZenaWarrior how this setup is working for them now. But the one thing I would change from this setup is the red mage. The level 45 one I would put to the very back and let the higher level one be in the front, so it's harder to complete. But this adds more complexity to a single island setup, and especially because all the towers are leveled up equally or close to equally, having them separated makes it very easy to defeat, but a longer island allows the increased complexity of the flight. So there's a red mage that you have to deal with. A lot of dragons need to take that out quickly, but there's an earth flak in the front that will activate a shield, so you have to prioritize that. Then the earth flak will add increased HP to the surrounding towers. The dark flak will deal a lot of damage and stun you. The ice flak will disable your spells, and the blue mage will prevent you from cloaking with a blue blue cloak spell or other spells such as heals that other dragons have that are blue, and that will disable those spells very quickly once they face the island. At the same time as you're dealing with all of that, you'll have the ice turret activate the super shot, which will deal beam damage, which a lot of dragons don't have ways to avoid, as well as produce another HP shield onto all the surrounding towers. Plus you'll have the howitzer activating, which if you use a super shot can break a shield, but I always recommend not super shotting the howitzer, especially if you have an ice flak that will be disabling the shields. With this positioning, the ice flak will disable the spells on the dragon at the same time that the howitzer's regular shot would hit, which means they will be unprotected and it will deal a ton of damage. The red mage at the back will prevent them from using long range red spells to destroy those towers, and the ice flak in the back, if they last halfway through the island and you do put a super shot on that and the storm, once you're over top of the red mage position in the front, the storm should activate, thereby making it challenging to take out the remaining towers. And once you get past the blue mage there, the ice flak from the back should hit as well, and thereby disabling your spells while you're trying to deal with the last few towers. So I do hope that this works out as intended. I am very excited to hear from ZenaWarrior how this is working, how they're liking this setup, and if they're glad that they ended up making this change. And then after this point, I would recommend continuing to keep the 5 towers at max level. Those 5 towers that I would personally choose would be the dark flak, earth flak, red mage, ice flak, and howitzer tower. And then let the blue mage lag behind slightly, but when needed, put another level into the blue mage as your 6th tower to keep towards max level. And then eventually you'll need to add a 7th tower that will need to come to max, and at that point we'll start talking about other setup arrangements and moving other stuff around. If you have any other thoughts about this setup, let me know in the comments. And Zena, I'm looking forward to hearing from you in the comments as well. And if there's other people who would like a similar video done with their base, let me know in line. Message my ID, dabrosky. My line ID is also in the comment or in the description below. I will try to do more of these if I can, but with time constraints, it may be challenging. But let me know your thoughts on this type of video. Let me know if this was helpful for your base redesign, if you had a similar situation. Good luck with this season, and I will see you in the next video.